Welcome everybody. Have you guys ever had a bad day? Because this guy sure has. Here we are. We're going to do a Joker review, you guys. We're going to put a happy face on and talk about this movie. So, what is this movie?
This movie's just a standalone Joker film that they decided to make. It's just basically his origin.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
his origin, and it's more like a realistic take or whatever. Even more realistic and dark, gritty than what Dark Knight was, or the Christopher Nolan trilogy.
Why make a Joker origin movie? Why now?
Well, the whole point was because Todd Phillips had noticed that he's the director of the movie. He noticed that DC kept trying to compete with Marvel, and they weren't doing a good job. I mean, you could be like,
they weren't.
Yeah. I mean, like it just all depends, because some people liked some of the movies, some people didn't, but it was all mixed. And what they were doing was too far off. And what he pitched to them was, hey, instead of trying to compete, why don't we make a movie that Marvel can't make? Why don't we make a movie that they'll never be able to do? So he pitched to them this, pretty much a mental health study, of the Joker. And he wanted to take us on a pretty much like an experience to see how mental health can deteriorate
right
over time, and he decided that this movie would be different from any other comic book movie. So WB decided to just give him like a independent film budget. It was only made by like the budget was only I think the budget was only $55 million, which is
actually really good for nowadays.
That's actually
right?
pretty low considering.
Put that perspective, like Avengers was like what, $5 million or not 5 million. It was like 400 million or something.
Yeah, that was their
make.
budget was like 395 million or close to 400 million to make. Yeah, and that's just like one movie, but definitely that's why they chose to do it, because WB and DC they were just like switching projects, and they just weren't
they didn't
very
seem like
decisive.
they had a clear direction, right?
Yeah, so they decided to just go with this one because Todd Phillips was like, hey, we can make this movie. We can make it not like a Marvel movie. We can make it different.
It'll be ours.
And yeah, exactly.
Legendary.
Right. So, in terms of filming, acting, directing, or the direction, like how was this movie? And by the way, guys, this is the non-spoiler portion of the review. We are going to do spoilers in a second.
So, as far as like acting, cinematography, and stuff, I think they did a damn good job with everything.
Absolutely.
Cinematography.
Agreed.
The acting, like I don't think there's one person in this movie, one actor, actress, or whatever that I would say did a bad job. It was overall really good, really convincing as far as each character's standpoint in the movie itself. Because this is definitely different than, obviously different than all the other DC movies, Joker movies, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
New take on Joker. And they did a really good job. Joaquin Phoenix, I feel like, did a fucking...
Joaquin.
He walks.
I'm sorry, I'll do my best not to cuss. YouTube, but... acting, cinematography, everything about it was great. Pacing, in my opinion, was great. It was smooth. You followed this Joker like through the whole way, everything he's going through, experiencing. It's just, I thought it was
POV.
I thought it was very fluid, and it's really hard to, in my opinion, to point anything out that I felt they had anything wrong,
Yep.
Yeah, same with like the acting. I liked all the performances. All the performances were done very well. The narrative actually stuck true throughout the entire movie. Like there wasn't any real like big change. You're just watching him go through pretty much like his descent into madness, pretty much. And then
step by step down the staircase straight to
exactly. And the cinematography was great. All the shots were great. The direction was very surprising, considering that Todd Phillips is known for like The Hangover or Old School. They're all like comedic movies, but to have such depth within the shots and all the like frames of this movie, like it was, you know, it was beautifully done, because it was very raw and gritty, and it did have reminiscent like feels to like Martin Scorsese films, had the reminiscent feels to like a Stanley Kubrick movie, because there were a lot of panning shots that were like just long shots, and it made you really feel into that character the way like Kubrick would want you to feel. And then like the Scorsese, like it just had that Scorsese feel the way that this movie flowed as well.
Gotcha.
And I believe that this movie had a good job, did a really good job.
Do you guys believe, with the intention of making their own original film, a Joker origin story, a film for DC that's not really been done before, did it accomplish its purpose?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe they definitely did a movie that Marvel's definitely not going to be able to do, because the way this movie is, oh man, yeah, it's very intense, it's very gritty, it's very raw. It's something that you know, old school cinema would touch upon. It's nothing like the new popcorn flicks would ever do. And doing a movie like this, they definitely, you know, like put the nail in the coffin on this movie. Pretty much. Like it got it spot on.
So would you guys?
I think this honestly opened up a whole new book for DC, and honestly, I feel like if they went down this more like serious road with even their their hero stories even, like going back to a little more serious theme or type of thing, just kind of like what Christopher Nolan did in his trilogy. I think if they continue to do this with their future movies, they can definitely be up to par and like very much compete with, you know, Marvel and stuff, what Marvel has been able to do.
So it won, this movie, guys, won, but before we, you know, and it even came out in theaters, it was winning an award at a, what was it?
It was a Venice Film Festival.
That's right.
They would showcase that Venice Film Festival, and everybody that went there loved it, and they all had the reviews from there for everybody that watched it. They were all great. It was
so
like
would you say after watching the movie that it deserved to win this award?
The Golden Lion Award is pretty much like the best movie of that festival. That's pretty much what that award is. And I believe it definitely, well, I mean, because I didn't see the other movies at the festival, so it's kind of hard.
It may be subjective to how bad the other movies are.
But for what this movie accomplished, what it did, as far as the character, let's not even talk about this as a DC or a comic book movie or anything.
But
let's say if this
as
is
a
movie, this was very well executed, just overall. So I would say, it definitely is very deserving of an award like that. So
awesome. So this movie, and we know as this movie came out, there was a lot of controversy that was brought about. Was the controversy justified? Where did it come from? You know, what were people saying?
I would say no. Because, well, I mean, I understand people have a problem with, like, the whole,
so people were talking about
sensitive subject.
Yeah.
But I personally feel like there's more disturbing movies, more disturbing films.
Right, and I agree. I didn't think it was, and I know in today's day and, you know, age of what was going on in the world, you know, it's sad and, you know, the stuff that happened in the previous Batman movie, I think DC or, you know, and even the theaters took precautions and everyone wanted to put it out there just, you know, just in case. We are not promoting, you know, people to go out there and do bad things. But I definitely think, you know, on that standpoint, it was good for them to do. But I agree with you, Mikey. I don't think it, you know, there's way worse movies.
Yeah, I think people got riled up about this because of like the realism behind the characters and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, again, I feel like there's been more movies and stuff that just more disturbing.
Yeah. So, would you guys recommend to the viewers to go watch this movie? Because I know a lot of people still haven't watched The Joker. Everyone's been on the fence. They're like, you know, it's one of those movies that come out like, yeah, I'll just wait for it on Netflix. Should they wait for it on Netflix or should they go watch this movie in the theater?
This is definitely a crazy cinematic experience because you go through this person's journey. It's definitely like I said, it's a whole experience, and it's a journey that you go through. Just watching him descend into madness, just his deterioration of his mental health. It's definitely, like, even if you're not a comic book fan, it's definitely still a movie to check out, just because it touches up on a lot of things, how messed up society is, what society can do to people, the monsters society can create, things like that. And it's definitely not a movie for everyone. But
not for everyone, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely not a movie for everyone because of the raw imagery and the disturbing imagery and stuff like that. But I would recommend, if you are into mental health study kind of movies or character study.
If you're a psychology major.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those movies to check out. What it does is it really makes you think. It really is a cinematic experience. So it is one of those movies that you should probably check out.
Yeah, it's like, and I highly agree with that too. I recommend to everybody check it out in theaters. For sure, this probably isn't one of those. Well, first of all, of course, family friendly. It's not.
Right.
This may
it's
not
no
be.
Marvel
yeah,
movie.
This may not.
It's not a Marvel
No,
movie,
but
guys.
even going to the extent of like, if you're going to, take your mom or grandma or someone like that. Let's go check out a movie. Yeah, this isn't the movie.
Grandma might not want to.
But overall, this is there's certain movies where you could be like, no, I'll just wait till it comes out, on TV or on DVD. I'll get it. But like, you're missing out on that whole experience. Being in the movie and sitting there watching the movie is totally different. Like, if I one of my favorite movies, Gladiator. If I miss that in theaters and then
there's just some movies.
There's just some movies you
watch
just
in
have
the theater.
to for the atmosphere and that whole experience. And I feel like this is one of those.
Absolutely.
Well,
So guys, go watch this movie in theaters. It's worth it. With that, this is the end of our non-spoiler review. And we're going to get right into the spoilers. Stay tuned.
Spoiler alert.
3. Welcome back to the movie, The Joker review. Spoilers incoming. Have a bad day experience.
Right.
The ultimate you had a bad day and you just lost your shit.
Yeah, if you think you had a bad day.
If you think you had a
watch
bad day,
this movie.
watch this guy over here. So what we said earlier was this is basically a Joker origin story, and it's their own, retake, their own what reimagining. There you go, perfect word for one of DC's, or not even any comic book, one of the most notorious villains that ever existed. So, what adaptations do we have to compare it to?
I would say loosely, it's based off of The Killing Joke, because in there it shows the Joker's origin and how he failed as a stand-up comic, and it shows him having a bad day, and that was the reoccurring theme of this movie. Is just it takes one bad day to make a
change
sane
your
man,
whole life,
and turn it into lunacy. Pretty much like how The Killing Joke expresses that. Like all it takes is just that one bad day.
So this, for everyone that's not seen the movie, but have seen previous movies, you have the first Batman movie, which is he's Jack Nicholson, still kind of the same guy, falls in a chemical blah blah blah, and then comes out all crazy. This is not that movie, guys. This is not like your regular superhero movie. This is really about a guy having a bad day.
The realism, right?
Yeah.
This is more real. I mean, you still have that comparison with, like, he's struggling with a loved one. Like, in this one, he has his mom that he's taking care of, and he's struggling with his work and stuff, and at the same time trying to become a comedian and stuff, failed comedian. Yeah,
and I like that they included that similarity in there.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's not what you're going to get in The Killing Joke, where he has a actual partner who's, I believe, was also pregnant or something, and then dealing with those issues. But he still has someone close to him where you can kind of feel for this character on like a personal level, you know?
Right.
So you have The Killing Joke, and as far as the origin story portion of that is, so these are the similarities, guys. You have like him being a comedian, he's living a normal life, he wants, he's obviously got this part of him that's like wants to be like a funny guy, and then you have, the close individual, that person in his life that he ends up losing. and his day also just becomes a really bad day. And if you've seen The Killing Joke or read The Killing Joke, you'll know that the story goes is that he was also doing things in the mafia. He was mafia related.
Yeah.
He has to wear the red hood. He's basically
Right.
the Red Hood character, and he gets caught up in a robbery that goes awry, and he ends up falling in the chemicals, and he just loses his shit. So, with that being said, the direction of this film, with some similarities again with The Loved One, with him wanting to be a stand-up comedian, sorry, is you have this movie starts off. He's a clown. He's actually like a paid clown. He goes and he does like events and such. And if you've seen the trailer, he's like holding a sign, just doing a little jig and whatever. And that's how this movie starts. So from that point on, what is the direction? Where does this movie go?
It definitely. It's one of those movies where it starts off bad and it gets worse. So what ends up happening is, it starts off in the beginning of the movie. You just see him putting his makeup on, and he's trying to put a smile on his face. He's trying to make himself smile because he doesn't really like his life. He doesn't like what's going on with his life, but he has to do it because it's his job. And then while he's at his job, he ends up getting messed up by like a bunch of kids.
Steal his sign and
he was just doing his job. That's the thing, is he was just going about it a normal way, and it's society that was toxic that came in, and pretty much like these kids just showed up and stole his sign and beat him up, and that's when you start the title of the movie.
All right, so
Joker. He got beat up.
You have him, he's a clown, he gets beat up, and I think it's really symbolic, that staircase. He sees that staircase a lot, and I like to call it the descent into madness, right? Definitely. So that's where he starts falling down this staircase, right? The next scene, he's over in the therapy sessions, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, like, where does he start taking these steps down?
Like, what ends up happening is he's trying to get help. He's trying to get, some sort of way to heal his mental health because society keeps pushing him down pretty much. Like, most people would feel sometimes there's just those days where you just feel like people are just messing with you, and that's the start of him. He just starts feeling that way because even at his job, when he tries to go back and they're like, hey, you need to bring the sign back, and it's like, well, you can't bring the sign back.
Right.
It's broken.
And
These kids broke it.
They won't believe him.
And they don't believe him. So he's like, hey, just return the fucking sign or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just return the friggin' sign. And then so it starts off like that because even people at his job aren't treating him right. So not only is he not being treated right outside where,
normal
the outside
life,
the outside world is, he's not being treated right, in his job where he has to go to every day.
Which is very relatable. What do you think, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see the struggle with him at work and just like even home life and stuff. Like after a therapy session, I think that's when he makes his first little trip home. He gets his medications and whatnot, and then that's when you first see him in that staircase you mentioned. And like when you look at the staircase, it's like, why does this motherfucker? I'm sorry. Why is he always going up these damn steps all the goddamn time? That would be. But I think it's like you said, it's symbolic because, well, I don't want to jump too far, but I mean, you see him struggling every damn day, and then that's the final steps he's got to take before he reaches home.
I think it's symbolic in the sense that, it's almost like he starts falling down the steps, but then at some point he gets up and starts dancing down the steps. He's just willingly.
Exactly.
Right.
But like, here's the thing: those are his final steps to get home. But like, even at home, it's such a struggle because he's taking care of.
He's just struggling everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right. His whole life is.
So that brings us up to the next point, right? So they introduce right after the therapy session. He goes home. He gets introduced. You get introduced to the character of the person that's his only family.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens with that then? Like you meet the mom, you establish that they have this relationship, but you can tell she's a little off.
Yeah. And
he's there bathing her and stuff. Like you can tell this is a weird relationship. Like they're both a little unstable in some senses.
Yeah.
And the movie continues this journey of like showing you like how weird his world is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think right after that it was the.
It shows the person he's very obsessed with because he is a stand-up comedian is the Murray Show, the host of the Murray Show, which is played by Robert De Niro, and it shows that he actually gets into this like little scenario in his own mind where he's like thinking he's part of the audience and Murray brings him down on stage and says things like, "Oh, you're like the son I never had," and like in his mind that made him happy, is thinking like his idol, like was really into him. Like he believed that like people were clapping for him, and that's what he wanted. Yeah. Because though how his life has been, he wanted to be treated the way Murray was being treated, and that's why that was his like idol. So it shows that aspect.
I think his main thing was like always just wanting to be seen or noticed.
Yes, definitely.
So that was, man, again, like another moment where you see him just imagining like all this is in his mind, but you still kind of feel for him, and it takes you through that whole way, like where you see him struggling everything, and you could see him going downward, just with his mental stability, and you start going crazy, but at the same time you're following this character the whole film and stuff, and
his perspective on life.
You just feel for him. But
so what happens next? What is it next that you feel for him on? Like, so the first thing that happens is you start to I would say this first part, it's just him falling, right? It's just things that are happening to him, and they're establishing the world that he lives in. Yeah. But then more stuff starts happening, like
his coworker.
I think the next one, he's at work, right? And that's where he gets the gun, because and then.
But here, I like that scene because it showed how toxic his workplace really is, because they were still making fun of him, and they
any place that gives you a gun sounds pretty toxic. Yeah, there you go. You need this.
But like toxic, like I mean, like toxic, work environment, as in they were making fun of him. They kept, even his own coworkers, the people he sees every day, they were considering that he was like a freak. And like everyone has that one person that you've worked with before, like you've had that one job where there was always that one weird, just a really weird guy, and then you always like it shined a light on like, oh, just because you think he's weird, doesn't mean he doesn't have feelings.
Right. Yeah. And you have this whole premise of they're all clowns.
Yeah.
They're all clowns. They're not a high-paying job. They're all, in a way, not the higher-up people in society, but yet there's a hierarchy even within that job where he's still the bottom guy.
Yeah, because they kept seeing him as a freak, and it was kind of messed up, because even at their own workplace, they had the boss's assistant who had dwarfism, and they even made fun of him too. So it just showed that if you were different, or if you were just a little weird, that those people were just gonna make fun of you no matter what.
So big part of the story is he gets a gun from one of his coworkers, because he finds out that at the beginning scene, Joker gets hit in the face, or
beat up by kids.
Beat up by kids to steal a sign. His coworker finds out and says, "Hey, you need this." Gives him a gun in a brown bag.
Yeah, you need something to defend yourself with.
Yeah.
And then, but I think in that same scene, he gets called into the office, and that's when his boss brings up the sign and stuff.
Yeah, right, and says it'll take it out of his
paycheck. The sign that was broken and stuff, and he's trying not to, like, you could tell he's trying not to laugh, with his
right, and then they establish at that point that he has a condition, so he has a permanent laugh, where if he's in like stressful situations, he starts uncontrollably laughing, uncontrollably. And he has to constantly explain to people, "I'm not laughing at you, I promise."
And he has his little card.
What it's related to is like people with Tourette's. Like you just don't understand that they cannot control this like aspect. And the crazy part about that performance as well, when we talk about his laughter, was Joaquin Phoenix did a really good job at making it seem like he was trying to stop himself from laughing, but he couldn't, because that cough
kept choking on himself, because he was trying to force himself to stop laughing,
and that brought more to the mood of like you can really sense the pain in him, because he doesn't want to laugh at certain parts when it's not funny, or it's not,
or it's getting him into worse situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is,
and he knows it's getting him into worse situations, and he's trying not to laugh, but like you can tell he's coughing, and you can feel the pain of it.
Worse situations. I believe the very next part is he gets, or no, he goes to the hospital, right?
Well, he's not dancing at the hospital yet. Right? No.
I think he is. I think he dances at the hospital.
Well, because he plays with the gun first, remember? Because he's at home.
He starts,
He starts, coming up with these things.
As far as major scenes that are concerned with, like...
Well, I figured that was kind of a major scene, because, like, he's never had a gun.
Yep.
So now here he is, and he's imagining all these things in his head. And he's like dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he imagines
trying to come up with jokes.
shooting people.
Yeah, and he imagines
Yeah,
just
that's
shooting
true.
somebody,
Yeah.
which is crazy because in the scenario that he's imagining it in, he's just dancing, and then he's dancing with somebody, and someone comes up to him and be like, "Oh, you're a really good dancer," and then he was just
You know,
like, "Oh, you know who's not a good dancer? This guy," and he pulls out the gun and shoots it.
Yeah.
And it's like already you can see that this guy's not very stable
Right,
mentally.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because if
And
that
it-
guy wasn't a good dancer, that's not a reason.
yeah, that's not a reason to shoot the guy. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like one of those things where you already start seeing his deterioration with his mental health because he's just imagining different scenarios and he's playing.
Or
around
maybe
with
you
the
are
gun.
seeing the deterioration. I think at this point they're still just establishing where his mental health is at.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so-
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the next scene is the part where he's actually
Dancing
amongst
in a children's
children.
home.
You know,
He's in
and,
a children's hospital.
Oh yeah,
That's his gig.
Of all
Yeah.
places.
and then he ends up dropping the gun on the floor and has to pick it up real quick before anyone sees it.
Yeah. He tries to play it off.
So at this part, the very next scene, he's getting fired. The only
Yeah.
job he has or can get because of his conditions, and he gets fired from it. And now he has no source of income anymore. He's finding out that he's getting fired. And not only that, he finds out the coworker that gave him the gun ratted him out. And or told a lie basically saying, "Oh yeah, he tried to buy the gun off me and he owes me for that gun," and
right.
stuff like that. And so that makes the
really
situation
fucked up.
worse because not only does he lose his job, but he loses a person that he thought was trying to help him, and it
Yeah.
felt like more like a
Right.
setup.
It was really messed up. Yeah.
So this is where I would say the deterioration starts. So now that happens to him, and he's having this is the beginning of the bad day experience, guys.
Right.
Or the bad day experience technically already started, but like this is where it really goes off, and he jumps a couple steps down, and he ends up on the subway, and we have the scene where all these people show up, and what exactly happens?
So there's like these three. You could tell they're well off, like rich kids in
Rich
suits and
kids.
stuff.
Yeah.
They're just harassing this lady on the subway and stuff.
She's just like reading
And
a
then-
book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then.
And she kind of looks at him for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she does.
Like, aren't you gonna
Do
do
something
something
about
about
this?
this?
And then he just starts laughing, because
Yeah,
I guess the
his
situation,
condition.
his condition.
Right. I think it made him nervous.
Yeah.
That she was looking at him for help, and he didn't know
Yeah.
what to do about it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
she ends up, since he's laughing and stuff, now these guys are like looking at him. Their attention is on him.
Yeah.
And she just kind of leaves and goes to the other, cart, the train cart or whatever. And then he, he's still laughing and stuff, and they come over, sit next to him, and start messing with him and whatnot. And then he finally, they start attacking him, kicking him while he's down and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's got the gun at this point, and he decides to pull it out. He shoots like the first guy in the head, and then
Yeah.
the
He
next
shoots the
guy
second guy,
shoots like
yeah.
3 times.
And
then-
it's like self-defense,
twice.
really, though.
Yeah.
Because he's
The
on the
first two
floor
were
getting
self-defense, yeah.
kicked
yeah.
while he turns around to shoot them.
Yeah.
So
and then the third guy, he ends up
chasing
Because he
down.
chased him down. Yeah.
This is where
This
is
is where
like
it's-
the breaking point.
This
You
is
could
where it's
say.
considered murder now.
Yeah. Basically, he goes from self-defense to murder because the last person he does shoot, and this guy is wobbling away,
Yeah.
but he makes it a point to chase this guy relentlessly. Like they're doing this little tag scenario on the train with the doors. Like
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
try to get off, and he's looking for him. He's like, "You're not getting away."
Yeah. Exactly.
Runs straight up to him and just straight up unloads the entire gun in him.
Yeah.
And then runs away.
Yeah, because that's when he realized he was like, "Oh shit, I just shot people." So then he was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I gotta get away from here." So that's when he ran into the bathroom, and then that's when you start to see that.
He's enjoying himself in a
Yeah.
sense. Like he finds like a release. He starts doing this weird meditative, like a trancey dance.
Interpretive dance.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's the thing is that was the only way he knew how to express himself. He
Mhm.
after that point he didn't feel bad about it, and that's what was crazy because when he looked in the mirror and he started dancing, you can tell that he actually felt free about it. Like
Yeah,
it was,
it looked like
like
he was
empowered.
swimming in it.
yeah, he was. It felt exactly empowered. Like
Yeah.
he finally felt that he has
It's
control of his life.
Yeah, it's like, well, not just that, but like I think he has always felt like just everything wrong going on with him. Like control of his life and stuff,
Yeah.
but not just has control of his life, but he has some power over others
Yeah,
to not
wow.
influence his own life as well.
Right.
Yeah. He's
Well,
not
I guess,
getting beat down by society anymore.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
has power
exactly.
over
So
it.
he has some kind of power, some say in
And what happens?
decide what can come of other people, I guess. And I guess it's that empowerment and stuff.
And it's after this point that it starts popping up in the news. And this is a big point in the story where he starts to see the cause of his own actions. And the thing is, he's been actionless to this point, right? And all of a sudden he does something and it's everywhere. It's caused this chain reaction because this whole movie is based right now in Gotham where shit is just going awry. There's trash everywhere. There's
civil unrest.
There's civil unrest and like there's strikes and protests. And he's dropped a little, thing in the pond now where it's made this ripple effect, and he's starting to see that his actions have big results, like on the world that used to have actions and where he would feel the results.
Exactly, and that's a big part of the movie too, because now he's starting to feel like he can actually make a change in the world. Because throughout the whole time he's trying to make a difference. He's trying to do something. He's trying to make people laugh. But then now him seeing everybody on the news doing the riots, supporting him,
so people start wearing the clown masks.
They're supporting him in a way that he wasn't ever supported in anything else he wanted to do.
Right.
And he felt good about it.
Yeah. So you start to see that he's feeling good. He looks in the newspaper, sees the evil clown, and he starts trying to mimic the face, right?
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, he's having his neighbor, the one that he saw in the elevator, the other character, he's seeing her everywhere. You get introduced to this character that's, after he kills those people, the first thing he does is go to that room, walk in, and just like a man moment, he just starts kissing her and stuff, and she's with it, I guess, and then you see the door close. And ever since that point, it's basically the interpretation that they're dating, and like she's with them in these scenes. But so right after this part, I believe, is where he goes back home, and it starts to dive deeper into a crazier plot line. Like they throw something at us that we were not expecting.
And it also showed that when he started doing his comedy stuff, and then he wanted to bring her. He wanted to bring her along so you can see. So she could see how his comedy is. And then the thing about with his comedy, like I love the scene where it shows him writing in his book of jokes and stuff, because even the way he wrote, Joaquin Phoenix did a really good job with making it like when you look at his handwriting, you're like, this guy's definitely a psychopath. Like the way he wrote and the jokes that he did, and then even that scene where so you believe that him and this girl are dating now, and he's been asking her to like, oh hey, come to one of my shows or whatever. So he does make a show, and what ends up happening is it's awkward because he keeps laughing. He has this uncontrollable laughter, and he can't stop it from happening, but he still wants to do his jokes. So his jokes are being recorded, and they're just very awkward. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody's had that experience where you've been to like an open mic, or you've gone to like a comedy club, and someone's made like try to make
they bombed.
They bombed, and that's exactly what it showed. And it goes after that to what it goes after that to where they're just walking in the street, and like you said, that's when he saw that that newspaper, and he's trying to mimic that Joker face because he wants to embody that, because that's the only time he ever felt empowered, because in the comedy club it didn't really seem like he felt that kind of you can tell that he felt like he was like failing in there.
Right. So but he goes home, gets to his mom.
Oh, right.
And she drops the bomb on him, right? Like, she tells him over and over, check the mail. She's been sending letters to, lo and behold, Thomas Wayne. We all know Thomas Wayne as Bruce Wayne's dad. Right. So Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne are in this movie. Here, there's no Batman, but the Waynes are in this movie, and they play a pivotal role, in a sense. So you have Thomas Wayne, and Bruce Wayne's still a kid, but the mom is saying she used to work for Thomas Wayne years ago, and she just needs to reach out to him, and she knows, he'll support her in their time of need.
Yeah.
She doesn't say why or anything. She just says she worked for him, and, when you work for him, you're always family and such.
Yeah.
And you even see Thomas Wayne saying that on TV about the guys on the subway that the Joker
guys that
killed.
Yeah.
He said they used to all, they're all, Wayne interns and such, and, they're basically family. But then you find out he's running for mayor, so of course he would say that in this time of peril, and he's running for mayor, and this, these 3 rich kids get killed in the subway by an evil clown, right?
Yeah.
So they've set this background out now for the mom and Thomas Wayne, and then he opens one of the letters, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, he's opening a letter to only find out that she's writing a letter to Thomas Wayne saying, "We need your help. Your son needs your help." What did you guys think about that scene now? Because my first reaction was like, "Oh, the cheese! Here's the cheese! They dropped the cheese ball right here."
Kind of, but then, at the same time, for me, like I felt like I was like, okay, well then that makes sense because that means Thomas Wayne just always produces psychopaths. Because I was like, okay, well then his next kid is gonna run around just as a bat. So you had your first kid run around just up as a clown. So it's just like,
no, I thought that was.
In a sense, I was kind of like, okay, well that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I could kind of forgive
So
that.
spoiler alert, guys.
I thought it was interesting, just because, you know, if they actually stuck with it, you know, this would be, you know,
Right.
a new type of thing for like the Joker and stuff.
New reimagining.
Yeah, that would mean like him. And,
It was
you know,
definitely
the
would have
Batman
been-
or
Batman
brothers.
or
and,
brothers.
Definitely
it was just
would
they were
have
just
been.
destined
Yeah.
to
Yep.
you know be
So
in conflict. all the
spoiler
time.
alert, you guys.
But yeah, but the thing is, as far as like for the character itself, I think that's when probably one of the first like major things.
Right,
to happen
he
to
thought
him
he knew his
personally.
whole
Yeah.
life.
Yeah,
and
his home
now
life. Yeah,
his life
this
is a
person
lie.
who's taken care of and struggling to take care of, and at the same time, you know, he's got to take all this time to take care of this person while his own mental health, personal health diminishes and stuff.
Yeah.
And only to find out that
She's been lying to him like the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
so someone close to you, you would hope they won't lie to you, you know. But
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So he then takes this information and goes to confront. He finds Bruce along the way. It's a pretty neat scene, but he eventually gets to Bruce Wayne himself.
Yeah.
Thomas Wayne himself.
Thomas Wayne. Yeah.
And confronts him and says, you know, you're my dad, and
it's like flipping out.
you know, like
Your dad, I just wanted you to hug me.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like stuff like that. But
and what does he tell him?
That's
Drops
when,
another bomb on him, right?
Yeah, that's when Thomas Wayne. You realize that's when Thomas Wayne was like, he brought up a good point. He was like, "What? I can't be your dad. Look how old you are." And he was kind of just like, he was kind of like, "Yeah, your mom was crazy." Blah blah blah. She was admitted into Arkham Asylum because that's how crazy she was.
Yeah.
And you were adopted. And then that was the big thing. Was
he
told him
mentions-
that he was actually adopted, and he didn't believe him because he was like, "No, just look at us. You're my dad." Like he still believed that he was his dad. Yeah, and then that's when you see a side of Thomas Wayne that you never seen in any other movie or any reiteration of Batman, and he punches him in the face.
Right. They basically make Thomas Wayne to be kind of like what you would imagine, like a rich, kind of like just
Like your
all about
stereotypical rich.
himself.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a gap between him and the rest of society.
Yeah.
And he not only, it's the way, and you can tell that in the manner in which he tells him he's adopted. He's like, "Wait, you didn't know you were adopted?"
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's
like
just
your
like,
mom was nuts.
Yeah. You don't know that your mom
she's
is nuts.
crazy. You're crazy. You know, that type of stuff.
So, you know, if Walking Phoenix goes on this journey now to find out which side of these stories are true,
Yeah.
ends up in the mental facility, Arkham Asylum, trying to pull records, has to end up stealing the records just to find out, right, that it is true. Now, there's a part earlier in the movie where the mom is saying, you know, when he first opens the letter and finds out that, oh, Thomas Wayne's my dad, obviously he confronts the mom first. The mom locks herself in a bathroom because obviously Joaquin Phoenix is very upset. And she says, you know, like, he made me sign papers. He made some papers up and he made me sign them.
Yeah.
Right? So it beckons the question, you know, okay, so Joker now finds out he is adopted. There's adoption paperwork there.
Yeah.
But could it truly be
that
you know, a rich and
Still
powerful
Thomas
man
Wayne.
who had nothing wanting to do with this lady who was not his wife covered it up and swept it on the rug with adoption papers?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the questions. Is just like, you don't know, but through his perspective, he's starting to see the truth. And that was the thing, is because he doesn't know what to believe now. Because this person's been lying, that person's been lying. He doesn't know who's telling the truth. He doesn't know who to believe now.
He doesn't even know if this person's really his mom. He doesn't, you know, like, there's nobody now. He feels more alone than he possibly did before.
Right. And then there was another thing about that report when he read it was it explained that during the time the mom that, you know, his mom had him adopted, the boyfriend at the time was abusing him physically. And he was beating him up, and he was tying him to the what's that heat
radiator?
He was tying him up to those things, and he was just beating him up. And that was another thing that was a truth that was shown to him, was that the mom never told him that he was getting beat up. And not only that, but she was allowing.
She was allowing it. She never stopped it. Yeah, and that was in the notes. That's something that she got confronted on when she got submitted to the asylum, and she had nothing to say. And he read that part about it, and you could tell he felt some type of way, because in the next scene after that, he really goes on his journey now. This is the part where he's really taking steps down. He's not falling down these steps anymore. He's taking the steps. Yeah. Right? Because...
Well, the thing was he ends up trying to go, because he found all this stuff out. He tries to go to his girlfriend's house. And then he tries to go to his girlfriend's house. He sits down on the couch, and he's just waiting and whatever. And then the girl, his girlfriend comes out, and she's just like, "Whoa, what are you doing? Like, why are you here?
You're Arthur from down the hall, right?"
You're the neighbor from down the hall, right?
And that's when you realize,
you're like,
oh shit!
Just imagining
they were dating the whole time.
He had delusions the whole time that they were dating, and that's another bomb that drops on you. Is just like, what the fuck is really what the heck is really going on here? And it was just like, oh man, like.
So it's like you start thinking like, how much of this exactly is actually going on in the movie? How much of this is just really in his mind? Like we mentioned, with some of these points and stuff. So it's like you don't even know what to think. It's like, remember, like towards the beginning when he's at the first therapy session, they do like a flashback of him in the asylum, just
banging his head on the wall.
It's like, what if he's been there the whole time too?
All
of this shit is in his mind.
So like he has that, and then to add insult to injury, pretty much, he got to see one of his clips. When he was doing the comedy club, he got to see one of his clips being played on The Murray Show, which is his idol, and he was like, "Oh, I'm finally going to be on The Murray Show."
And then he finds out he's just there to be made fun of.
Well, the thing was
it was at the
clip.
Hospital.
Remember when he was watching the TV?
The clip when they made fun of him?
That showed him like being awkward in the comedy club, and he's watching on the TV that Murray is making fun of him. His idol is making fun of him. He called him. He's like, "Look at this Joker," and then he was just like, "Oh, making fun of like his jokes and stuff," and he was like, "Yeah, you should leave the comedy to me." And that's when, Joaquin Phoenix's character, Arthur, felt real bad, because he's like, "Oh, I used to look up to this guy. I thought my jokes were funny,
and I guess I'm just some kind of joker."
But and that's that added even more like insult to injury, and now he finds out that his girlfriend's not actually his girlfriend, and his mom's not actually his mom. And it's just like all this stuff.
And Santa's not real.
So he's just like going through these things, and he's putting himself in the refrigerator. He's doing all these things. He's being very, he's in a very depressive state. And then, he gets that call to
be on the
appear
Murray
on
Show.
the Murray Show.
We got a good response from your clips, and they want you on the Murray Show.
And he originally is like, they want me, and you could tell when he says yes, he'll do it. He's not even happy about it. He's just like, I know what I'm going to do as soon as I get there, kind of.
And he even starts practicing what he's going to do, and what he's going to do is
shoot him, but he doesn't do that yet.
No, he's like, you want to hear a joke, and like he's going through it and stuff. Like, oh, he's going to tell a joke, knock knock. Who's there, and then he's just going to pull the gun out and he's going to shoot himself live on TV.
But before he does that whole part is the part where he's in the hospital and confronts his mom.
Now he's confronted his mom.
And now, meanwhile, his mom had a heart attack because police are looking for the killer clown in the subway. And started questioning his mom, and she has a heart attack, so she's in the hospital. So while she's in the hospital, he goes there and takes his real big first step. And decides that, you know what? You're not my mom. You let me suffer all these things that have happened to me. And I realized there's nothing wrong with me. It's all of you.
And
he starts to realize... kills her. by suffocation. Throwback to Gladiator there, but
Yeah, it's
death by suffocation.
At that scene, it's when he says that, he starts to realize that he's not the one that's crazy. It's society that's crazy, and he feels the need to do something about it, and that's why he ended up just killing his mom, because he was like, well, you lied to me all this time.
Yeah.
Get out of here, blah, blah, blah. And just like after that is when he's starting to come up with ways on how he's going to present himself in the Murray show.
Yeah. So at this point now,
he's already there.
He's
there.
lost it. He's lost
at this point, he's
right, because then his friend comes over.
Oh,
right?
yeah, because
his
he
friend
actually
comes over, but to be brief, because we're running out of time.
Right.
His friend comes over, and at this point, he doesn't even think twice, right? He just says, "Oh, you're here? Perfect. Just the man I wanted to see."
Yeah.
Right? Starts like, "Oh yeah, uh-huh." He's like, his friend's talking about the gun, like, "Hey, cops are asking about the gun." As soon as he finishes that sentence, wow, right?
Yeah,
starts shanking him in the eye. He doesn't even care. The midget is there. He's like, "Why are you doing this, Arthur?
Why are you killing him?"
And he just starts making fun of, like, he's joking around with it. He's like, "I wouldn't kill you," right?
Yeah.
Starts to scare him a little, right? And
So what ends up happening is after he kills his the coworker Randy, the one that gave him his gun, he starts bashing his head in, and then you just see the horrifying look on the dwarf, on his face. And then that's when he's just trying to leave, and then Arthur drops this thing on him where he was like, "Oh, I wouldn't kill you because you were the only person that was ever nice to me."
Yep.
And that brought more light into his
that and everything else he
justification,
said, because he basically says, he thought he would feel something. He doesn't. He was saying basically, "I'm happier. I feel freer."
When
killing
you kill
these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I thought I would, feel sad, but I don't.
Or feel guilty, yeah.
And he kind of, he touches on it briefly there, but he does it more when he gets on the show. So he puts on the face, he gets all ready, right? Now he is Joker-fied.
Yeah, and now the whole city has been put into riot. And everybody's like, not, because this is the day of the riot that they all like schedule.
Don't forget, after killing the guy, he's getting ready for the show.
Yep.
Oh,
he
right,
goes down. That's when he starts dancing.
That's
down
when
the
he
stairs.
actually starts
dancing.
dancing.
This is when those two
down
cops,
the
those two detectives,
and the cops are looking for him.
They're like, "Hey, Arthur!" I don't think they went up to the apartment, but they're up the steps.
Right.
Yeah, and they just see him dancing.
Good old time.
Yeah, he just books it, and they start chasing after him, and then they end up in the subway where a bunch of other people, are wearing masks. They're on the way.
You see
to the
full civil
mob,
unrest.
Yeah, the full civil unrest, because the cops can't get to him because there's a bunch of people with clown masks in the subway, and they're not doing too much, but they're in there.
Yeah.
But as soon as they start flashing their badge around, that's when people start losing their
going
shit.
crazy.
One guy gets shot by the cop, and it was like that scene from V for Vendetta where they all start converging on the police guy, and that's it. Like, the police, they were, you don't see them for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then you get to the showtime on the Murray show, and he's there, and he that's when he wrote on the mirror, "Put a happy face on," or whatever, or "Put on a happy face."
And that's when he asks Murray, "Can you introduce me as Joker?" And he actually asks why.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, because that's what you called me.
Exactly.
When you were playing."
But it was so awkward. He's like, "You remember? That's what you call me."
And then Robert De Niro was kind of like, yeah, I guess. Okay, I'll introduce you as Joker, I guess. Yeah, he didn't think too much of it. But, Joaquin Phoenix already has this, like, elaborate plan in his mind, and while he's being called out, he's just dancing, and he's expressing himself freely, and then when he's out there, he makes a bunch of good points, and he was like, "You only brought me on this show to make fun of me, like everybody else.
So
everybody always makes fun of me."
What was powerful about this scene, what was powerful about the ending was, as soon as it starts, he's himself, he's accommodating to the crowd for letting them be on the show, and he pulls out the notebook because they're like, "Oh, do a joke," and you can see he doesn't do his what he rehearsed about shooting himself. He actually tells the joke, but what's powerful about the scene is they start the dialogue, and he goes, "This is nothing political what you're doing with the face because everyone else is in clown." He's like, "No, I don't care about politics. I don't care about what's going on in the city. I'm just here for me."
Yeah.
But then that's how it starts, and then it's kind of like the whole progression of the movie. In this dialogue, he starts off, "I don't care about none of this," but when he starts talking, the dialogue shows exactly what he cares about.
Yeah.
He makes all his points the same way the whole movie. It was like a shortened version of the movie right here
Right.
in this dialogue.
It starts to deteriorate pretty much, and then that's when Robert De Niro's trying to be like, okay, well, I think we've had enough, blah blah blah, and
right, but he's like, he admits it on the show. He's like, you know what, I killed those 3 guys in the subway, and Robert De Niro started trying to play police detective on live air, saying, well, why did you do it? You just think you're so much better than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains, you know what? No, I'm not better than anybody, but you guys aren't better than me. You guys are always,
making fun of me,
right?
And blah, blah, blah. And that's when he shines a light that like society's been so messed up to him, and all these things.
Right.
But it's like he had this plan. Like he was like practicing what he was gonna do, tell the joke, shoot himself live, right?
Yeah.
But remember when he was opening the book, one thing it zoomed in on, whatever, was something he wrote, and that his therapist from the very beginning saw. I hope my death makes more sense than my life. Sense like spelled like money wise, CENTS, and so that was like his main joke and stuff or whatever in his booklet. And then you see him like he's flipping, and then he sees that, and I feel like it's kind of like symbolic of the character in a way, because you see the progression from the very beginning where the therapist sees that statement, but he's like so messed up. He's at the very beginning struggling with all this stuff, and then at the very end, finally accepting that, you know what, this is me or whatever.
Right.
And so I felt like that kind of empowered him even more. Like, why should I kill myself?
I think, and I think it was kind of symbolic that they wrote it with a sense. Because at first he's trying to make a joke, he's trying to be a comedian. I think he saw it the other way around at the end. It's like, he's figuring this is the end. He's just now admitted to killing people on TV. He sees, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. And he's been living a senseless life up until this point, right? And then there's people rioting.
But I don't think it's that, because remember, it's spelled like the money wise.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think,
okay.
I think originally he's seen it as that.
Like he's struggling with stuff, like not...
No. Originally he's seen the sense, because he wrote it, the money, because he wanted to be a stand-up comedy. And I think he's like looking for a joke to tell, but I think when he sees it, it's still the same sentence, but instead of the sense as money, in his head he's like, this is sense with the S-E-N-S-E, because he's just like, what the fuck, I don't want to tell a joke. I'm hoping I'm not just this image that they all think me out to be, and I'm hoping my life actually makes sense.
True.
My death this is the end.
He used the book as a
makes
joke
sense. But at least that's the way I saw it.
Right.
As symbolism. Like, he changed the meaning of that one word that does change the entire sentence in his head. Like,
and then that led to him
saying
changing his plan. That led to him changing his plan, and instead he wants to tell Murray a joke. And Murray at this point is like, okay, we're done. Okay, you got to get out of here. Blah blah blah. And then that's when he finishes his joke. He pulls out the gun and he shoots Murray in the head on live TV, and everyone saw it. Everyone's going nuts. Everyone's trying to run around. Everyone's going crazy. And then that's when he does this like crazy like call back to Heath Ledger, where he goes up to the camera and he's talking to it, and it was just like, it was such a beautifully like shot scene, and it was
because
like,
you actually see you don't see the full clip there, but if you actually later, like a couple seconds later, you see the full clip or minutes, and it is a good callback, and it is his lunacy is there,
and now you can see it. Now it's there on display, and everyone can watch it.
And then
he's in the cop car. Okay, so this scene I really love, because
this was the essence of this whole entire movie, was this part here.
Exactly.
Him once again realizing the results of his actions and how much of an impact his actions have on the world.
But while he's in the cop car, it does this crazy parallel. This is one of the most beautiful shots that Todd Phillips did. Was his head is against the window of the cop car, and like it was earlier in the movie where his head was against the window of the bus, and he wasn't happy on the bus. He was sad. But this time you see his head's against the window of the cop car. He's seeing everything around him. He's seeing how much he's changed the city.
Because
and he's laughing. And
after
now
he
he's
shot
happy.
Murray on live TV, the city goes nuts. Straight out nuts. You thought there was riots before? Like, they're literally throwing bombs in the street.
And then you see him, like, he's happy. He could see all these things going around. And
sees all the chaos.
And then what ends up happening is that car crashes into the cop car. And it ends up killing the cops. But Arthur's still alive. So you see these two people, just two random people, bring out Arthur.
In clown masks.
Yeah, they bring out Arthur and they put him on the hood of the car, and then that's when you see the rest of the other craziness that's going around the city. So it jumps into Batman's origin,
Right?
which was a really good reimagining because
I like this reimagining.
I like that
a lot.
too. Yeah, instead of them dying because someone was trying to rob them, they get out of the theater and there's this guy that's just waiting for them.
Right.
He's there. He sees Thomas Wayne, and he sees Thomas Wayne's wife, and then he sees
remember,
Bruce.
Thomas Wayne's running for mayor, and this whole thing is about the city and the
civil unrest that's
the
going
civil
on.
unrest of the people who are poor against the people that are rich.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Thomas Wayne walking out, and
yeah, and then they're trying to get away from the craziness because of everything that's going on, and they end up walking down the alley, and the guy follows them there, and he says the same exact line that Joaquin Phoenix said to Murray, which was, "You get what you deserve." So he pulled out the gun and he shot Thomas Wayne, and then he shoots Thomas Wayne's wife.
Yep.
And now Bruce is there with his dead parents again.
yeah,
we're always seeing Bruce's parents get shot.
Yeah.
You're never gonna escape that. But yeah, but it's crazy because it's just like this is a whole different reimagining because
I like this reimagining, but I like the fact that it pays homage to this a redone idea.
Yeah,
It's not always been done the same way, but there's always this idea of the Joker created Batman. or Batman created Joker.
Exactly. Yeah,
You know?
I liked that the movie did that, where it was like the Joker, because of that aspect of society, created Batman, and I liked that it showed that. And then after that scene, you just see the Joker finally waking up. And everybody's clapping, everybody's cheering him on, and he's dancing on top of this broken cop car, bloodied up, and everybody else is just cheering, and he sees himself as he finally put a smile on everyone's face, kind of thing.
And he's getting the applause.
Yeah,
the
and
encore.
then that's when he does this crazy thing where he takes the blood and he
Yeah.
creates his own
cool.
smile.
That was
Yeah,
cool.
I thought that was.
He's bleeding from the mouth, and he wants to
man,
smile, and his mouth's all messed up, so he probably can't do it right. So he just with the
it was
blood.
crazy.
He's all happy, and that's pretty much the movie, guys. And that's all the steps of how he went into his madness. But
ends with him in the asylum.
Yeah, ends with him in the
Right.
asylum, and then the therapist is trying to ask him a question, and then he's just laughing, and then she was like, well, what's the joke? And he goes, you wouldn't get it. And then it turns out, the way the movie, the final shot of the movie is him walking, but you see the blood and the steps. And this is where I relate this shot to like how Kubrick usually did his shots. Because it was a panning shot, and it was a really long one. And you see him trying to escape Arkham Asylum, and he's running back and forth, and people are trying to capture him. And it's just one of these things where he finally embraces his chaos.
Yep. So last question, guys, before we get into the rating is, most people, up to this date, they like Joker as a non-origin, crazed mystery man that just represents chaos. Does this add to the Joker's legacy, or does it take away from it?
I don't think I feel as if it doesn't do either, because to me the Joker will always be that kind of menacing villain. Yeah. It doesn't matter how what reimagining you do. It could be like this, where it's completely realistic, where he's not being thrown in a vat of toxic waste, where it's society that turns him into a monster.
Society is the toxic waste.
Yeah, exactly. Society is what's toxic. Yeah. So I like that aspect of it. I don't think it really adds to the legacy, only because to me the Joker's legacy has always been he's like one of the best villains of all time. So with that, it's like, well, watching this movie, you're like, well, yeah, I can understand now more in depth of why a character would be like that. Yeah. And it doesn't take away anything from it because of how real it is. And I think that was the main argument with some people. That was
the main argument. A lot of critics,
And I don't think it does take away, it doesn't take away his legacy, because just because it's not exactly like the comics, it doesn't necessarily have to be. This is more into blending a cinematic experience with a character we already know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mikey?
And I agree with that. I mean, we already know who Joker is from all the comics and all that. I do agree that it does. I don't feel like it adds anything. I agree with Ninja on there. It doesn't take away because overall, like when you go through each of the Jokers, I mean, you could basically say each of the Jokers are basically a reimagining, a new take on the character. And I think it was just done overall really good job with this Joker, this take on the Joker. And even if the Joker was the same through each each step of the way with even if he was the same with each reiteration and stuff. Like considering this is, would be a reimagining with the take they took on other characters, Thomas Wayne and all that, and the origin story of Batman, that kind of stuff, how they connected it. I don't feel like that's something you could still kind of judge as whether that itself added. It's just a new take.
Yeah, exactly.
And so with that being said, I don't think it added, but I don't think it took anything away from it at all, and it was just really good.
Yeah, I think it is a different take personally, but I do think it added. I will say it added because in a sense it is I know in a sense you can't say it added to a character that if the character isn't supposed to have a backstory, that's part of his thing, like the last one in Dark Knight. But like, I personally like the origin story because there are, again, the other origin stories, like even the original Batman movie had basically an origin story, right? Yeah. But it was just like that, to me, like a stereotypical comic book type of feel, and this was a really in-depth, really good look of what would make a sane man, or a borderline insane man, lose his shit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, it added it beautifully to this like fuel to the fire, and the progression, and it would justify any kind of lunacy Joker that would come next. Right. Not that I expect him to make a sequel to this movie, but the justification for a crazy character is already there. He already by the end of this movie, he's established who he wants to be and what he wants to do to the world, and he likes the reaction he gets from it.
Definitely, yeah.
So, overall, guys, what are we ranking this movie? 1 out of 10.
I honestly, looking at it as its own movie, if you don't connect it, like, well, you know what? Even if you do connect it with DC, comics or whatever, the story of each character, I think even in that sense, I would still rank this pretty high and stuff because, personal rating, I would say 10. Yeah. 10 just because, like, again, this is a new take on the Joker, just like all the other Jokers and stuff. So I don't think that's something you can really judge as far as like, oh, it's not a good origin or whatever. Right. That would be solely based on the movie itself, in my opinion, the writing and all that. Which the writing, cinematography, acting, everything was just great. Yeah. So I honestly give it a 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Same here. I'd give it a 10
Woo,
out of 10.
You guys are generous.
well, for me, this is like, because before, the movie of the year for me was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but then after seeing this movie, this is definitely movie of the year for me, because I didn't expect it to be so well done. I was expecting it to be a little choppy just because it was coming from Todd Phillips, and he's not known for doing movies like this. And this movie gave off, like I said, more of a Martin Scorsese and Stanley Kubrick vibe. And I love those directors, and this movie was very raw and gritty, and it was very something that you would never see be made by pretty much a lot of studios. Even as a comic book movie, something like this was probably like wouldn't have even been talked about like for like a Marvel movie or anything like that. So this movie did a really good job at what it was meant to do, which was create an entirely different narrative, entirely different type of movie.
Gotcha. So you guys are much more generous than I am, and originally I gave it a little bit of a lower rating before, but this time I'm going to say,
after thought
about everything, I'm going to give it a solid 8. Mm-hmm. And the reason I give it an 8, and I can't rank any higher than that, is because, to me, I love the story, I love the direction, I loved what they did, I loved the acting, but there's only one thing I can complain about, and for me, that I would have liked more of, and that's, they established where his mind is at, and then just guide the direction where his mind goes. But I was expecting a more significant feeling as he's diving into this madness. For instance, the biggest scene to me would have been, they've established this character who has a relationship with his mom all his life. Mm-hmm. There's a relationship with this person who he cares about. He even has a delusion where he's being applauded for being there to take care of his mother. In the instance that he finds out it's not his mother, he kills his mom, but the scene felt so unfulfilling for me because it's one of the biggest, so it's, implied that this is one of the most biggest kills yet, the person that means most to him in his life, and there was no build up to it. He just sits there, she can't say anything, he barely says anything to her, just, oh, you know what, Mom, I found out it's just everyone else, it's not me, throws a pillow on her, and that's it. And musically, you know, dramatically, all the different ways that it could have been more like, damn, like that was crazy. It just felt like he killed her like everybody else, and it wasn't ramped up enough to show the descent. In fact, it baselined. It was like all the kills after that felt the same. After all the kills of the subway, it just felt the same. There was no extra lunacy to it besides the very last one with Murray. I'll say that one was a little more because, again, there was the build, it was the last scene. They had to, but like the mom should have been another scene equally as bad. And he killed the other guy too fast, in my opinion, too. I expected him at this point. He's loving killing people. There needs to be more taunting. He needs to know that he's about to kill
his coworker.
Right, yeah, coworker. Like, I would have expected the Joker to say, you know what? You gave me that gun to lie, or this or that, and just really paint this guy in a corner. And for the guy to basically know he's about to be killed because, like, at that point, that Joker doesn't care.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So I was expecting a little more of this darkness in this descent rather than this baseline of, like, I'm just, okay, you're dead and it's the same amount of emotion in each. And it's just like, well, this is supposed to be the person you spent your whole life with. And clearly that guy didn't mean anything, but that's okay. But, like, you know, so as far as that goes, that's the only reason I would give it an 8 as opposed to a 9. I expected a little more from that dive, but so 2 10s and an 8.
Yeah.
Overall, this is why we said go watch the movie. It was really good, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really good.
Recommend.
And like he says in the movie, art is subjective, or
Yeah.
you know, things are subjective. So
That's why we do these reviews.
yeah.
Yep. But thank you guys
Yes.
tuning in.
Thank
Stay
you.
tuned for the next review. Peace out.